Welcome to our deep dive today, everybody. We're going to get into some really fascinating stuff, I think, today, talking about Tesla and specifically some of their latest innovations that are really pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible. So get ready, because we're going to unpack the world of robotaxis, the Robovan, and something I'm personally really curious about, the Optimus robot.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see Tesla, a company that we often think of in terms of electric cars, really expanding its vision into this multifaceted thing, right? Like you said,
Yeah.
you've got the autonomous driving element, the electric vehicles, and then this really, really heavy emphasis on AI. It's like they're trying to weave all these things together into like a completely new way of thinking about transportation altogether.
Absolutely. And I think the Robotaxi is probably the most immediate example of that, right? It's their answer to like the Ubers and Lyfts of the world, but with, well, no driver. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like the ultimate goal of ride hailing. You hail a ride, the car shows up, and boom, it takes you where you need to go. No driver, no fuss, just pure technology at your service.
I will say it does sound incredibly convenient, especially if you're someone like me who hates parallel parking. But when we talk about a car driving itself, how does that even work?
So at its core, a robotaxi is using this really intricate system. It's a mix of things, right? You've got sensors, cameras, radar, ultrasonic sensors, all working together to like build this 360-degree picture of what's happening around the car. And then you've got the AI, or the algorithms if you want to get technical. And these algorithms are processing all that data from the sensors in real time. They're the ones actually making the decisions, steering the car, navigating through traffic, all based on that constant stream of information.
See, that's the part that, I don't know, kind of makes me nervous. All that reliance on algorithms. What if it makes the wrong decision?
Well, that's why they talk about algorithmic anxiety. It's a real thing, right? Like we're putting a lot of trust in this technology. But to address your concern, building that trust is really important for companies like Tesla, and they know that. So they put a ton of effort into testing these algorithms, like way more than any human driver ever could. They're talking millions of miles of simulated driving, all kinds of crazy scenarios, edge cases, you name it. And they're constantly refining how the AI responds, making sure it's as safe as possible, even in unexpected situations.
That does make me feel a bit better, knowing how much goes into it. But even if we assume those algorithms work perfectly, I can't help but wonder about the bigger picture here. Like, what happens to taxi drivers, ride-sharing services, all those jobs that rely on driving? That's a lot of people potentially impacted.
No, you're absolutely right to raise that point. And honestly, it's something a lot of people are concerned about because, yeah, you're looking at a potential shift in the job market. We don't have all the answers yet, but I mean, it's not like all those jobs just disappear overnight. It's going to be a gradual transition. And with that, we're probably going to see new opportunities pop up, new types of jobs in areas like AI development, software engineering, things related to maintaining and overseeing these autonomous systems. It's about adaptation, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot to consider, the human element of all this, especially when we're talking about such a massive technological leap. We can't just focus on the shiny new tech and forget about the people who might be affected. But maybe on that note, we can shift gears a little bit and talk about another way Tesla is envisioning the future of transportation. And this time, it's not just individual rides, it's about public transport with their Robovan concept. So from individual rides, we're moving to like mass transit, right? And Tesla's jumping into that game with the Robovan. It's their take on like a self-driving electric bus. I mean, imagine a whole fleet of these things just cruising around cities, no fumes, maybe less traffic. Sounds kind of utopian, right?
It really does, and it speaks to that idea of like a perfect storm of trends converging. You've got the sustainability angle with the electric aspect, the whole autonomous driving revolution we've been talking about, and then the ever-present need for better, smarter urban mobility solutions. The Robovan kind of checks all those boxes, at least in theory.
Okay, but let's get real for a second. Cities are messy, right? You've got pedestrians darting out, cyclists weaving through traffic, and let's be honest, sometimes delivery trucks double parked wherever they please. How's a driverless bus supposed to handle all that chaos?
Well, it all comes back to that autonomous driving system that Tesla's been developing. Remember all those sensors we talked about? They're crucial here. The Robovan would be using a whole network of them, constantly scanning its surroundings, collecting data, and feeding it back to those sophisticated algorithms.
Fair.
So it's not just reacting to what's happening, it's actually anticipating potential problems, hazards, and adjusting its course in real time to keep everyone safe.
Okay, I'm picturing it now, this giant futuristic bus just smoothly gliding through traffic. But I gotta admit, part of me still wonders, would I actually feel safe getting on a bus with no driver? Like, who's in control?
I get it. That's a completely natural reaction. And honestly, that's the biggest hurdle for any company trying to make autonomous public transport a reality. They have to get the public on board, literally. And that means being incredibly transparent about safety protocols, doing tons of testing, and just constantly communicating to build that trust.
Yeah, because with public transport, it's not just about individual comfort anymore, right? It's about collective safety, the well-being of everyone on board and around the vehicle. So let's say, for argument's sake, that Tesla nails the safety aspect. How do they see this Robovan actually changing the game for public transportation?
Well, think about it. Optimize routes that adjust to real-time traffic conditions. No more human error, potentially fewer accidents, and of course the environmental benefits we talked about. And then there's the accessibility factor. Imagine a system where the Robovan can cater to people with disabilities or elderly individuals who might have difficulty navigating traditional public transport. It has the potential to be a truly inclusive and sustainable system.
It's a pretty compelling vision of the future. But, Tesla doesn't stop there. They're also venturing into the world of, well, robots you might find in your own home with their Optimus project. And that's a whole other conversation about how technology is integrating into our lives. So we've gone from robotaxis to these like self-driving buses. And now Tesla is taking it a step further, right? Into the realm of robots that could actually be like in our homes, in our workplaces. Optimus, they call it. I gotta ask, what's the driving force behind this? Are we really ready for robots in our kitchens and living rooms?
Well, you have to remember, Tesla's bread and butter, so to speak, is really AI and robotics, right? They're just applying that expertise in a new way with Optimus. I think
Yeah.
they see it as like the next logical step, taking tasks that are tedious, maybe even dangerous for us humans, and handing them off. It's like having an extra set of hands, but, robotic ones.
I can see the appeal, especially for those chores we all dread. But I don't know, the thought of a robot in my house, it's a little, I don't know, Jetsons-esque, isn't it? Are we going to become too reliant on them, even for things we're perfectly capable of doing ourselves?
It's a valid concern for sure.
Yeah.
Like any tool, it's all about finding the right balance, right?
Yeah.
I don't think the goal is to create a world where we're totally dependent on robots. It's more about freeing up our time, our energy, so we can focus on things that require, well, our unique human capabilities. Things robots, at least for now, can't replicate.
Okay, that makes sense. But with a robot as advanced as Optimus is supposed to be, how do we make sure things don't go, haywire? I've seen enough sci-fi movies to know how that could go wrong.
You're not alone in thinking that. It's why the ethical considerations, the safety protocols, those are absolutely paramount when you're talking about robots interacting with humans, especially in our homes. And Tesla knows that. They're talking about building in all sorts of safeguards, fail-safes, ethical guidelines. So Optimus doesn't suddenly turn into, a character from a dystopian novel.
All right, that's somewhat reassuring, I have to admit. So let's zoom out for a second. We've covered a lot today, from robotaxis potentially changing how we get around, to the Robovan maybe revolutionizing public transport, and now Optimus blurring the lines between like science fiction and reality. It's a lot to wrap our heads around. What's a takeaway for our listeners who are probably just trying to navigate their Tuesday right now?
Honestly, I think the biggest takeaway is that technology isn't slowing down, right? It's up to us to keep pace, stay informed, engage in these conversations because these changes, they're not just happening to us, they're being shaped by us. Our choices, our voices, they all play a role.
That's a great point to end on, I think. We can choose to be overwhelmed or we can choose to be informed, engaged participants in this, frankly, pretty exciting time to be alive. So thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Tesla's world of innovation. And remember, the future is what we make it, so let's make it a good one.